Welcome everyone to today's webinar, team supported by AI and automation. We are thrilled to have you join us for this exciting and informative session organized by TAX. TAX is the Turkish American Chamber of Commerce of South. My name is Arzu Tekir. I am the general partner at Treeo VC. We are backing Turkish founded tech startups entering the United States. And I proudly serve as the finance and committee chair of Turkish American Chamber of Commerce as well. My co-host is Senior Vice President of the organization, Selen Timur. She will introduce the organization and how you collaborate with its members and communities in a few minutes. Then I'm gonna introduce our distinguished guest, Idil Cakim. Selen.
Hello, welcome everyone. As Arzu said, thank you. My name is Selen Timur. I am the SVP of the Turkish American Chamber of Commerce of the South. I want to introduce a little bit what the Chamber of Commerce does. We are now in our second year, and we have over 150 members currently. The reason for tax is to increase the business between the Turkish and American companies. And whilst doing that, we want to give them the most sustainable, accredited, monitored service as possible by volunteered businessmen who have established themselves here in the States for at least 10 years, let's say. So all of these businessmen, businesswomen from Turkey and from the States have gone through different hoops in trying to succeed in the American markets. And we want to share our experience, and within the members inside of tax, we want to help grow the business community. So everyone is checked by tax. So we stand behind all of our members. And the idea here is members help members grow. So instead of looking for a service outside, why not help each other? And we have very nice built businesses inside. Now, I, for one, use 2 of our members for my logistics and warehousing services. So, and we have a lot of different committees. We have the logistics, the warehousing, textile, business advisory committee, we have technology, we have finance and investment as Arzu leads, and many more. And we keep opening new committees as the need comes up. So it's very important if you want to grow in the States and if you want to have the best service. And by the way, we are a nonprofit American organization, a 501c6 organization. So as I said, everything goes through memberships. So if you want to benefit from all of these voluntary but highly expertise services, we welcome you to become members to tax. It's tax.us, and we look forward to growing together with the companies that share the vision of doing the absolute best that they can to succeed in the US market. Thank you very much, Arzu.
Thank you, Selen. Thank you so much. I am admitting other guests here. So thank you for the introducing our Chamber of Commerce, Selen. Now I am delighted to introduce our esteemed speaker, Miriam Cakim. Idil is the head of research and development at Audacy, America's second largest radio and broadcasting company. With a wealth of experience and insight, Idil will be sharing her expertise on the latest developments in podcasting, radio advertising, and the profound impact of AI on the industry. She will also discuss with us today how businesses can effectively leverage these mediums and how Audacy supports 48 local markets across the United States with a small but highly effective team, thanks to automation and AI technologies. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Idil Miriam Cakim. Idil, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. You can hear me okay?
Yeah. Very well.
All right. So I just wanted to start with a little bit of introduction as to what Audacy does, and I think you will all enjoy hearing this little clip.
I could have my Gucci on. malu. I can guarantee you double drop, drop, 'cause they don't. I could have my Gucci on.
Evet. This is a brief introduction to our Odyssey, and I just wanted to give you a glimpse of everything that we do, just so that the rest of the conversation can be put into better context, because audio means different things to different people depending on the platform that you prefer. But briefly, Odyssey is, as Arzu mentioned, a broadcasting company, second largest one in the United States for audio. We have coverage in more than 47 markets, 90, and in those markets, we represent 90% of the coverage. We reach 25 million people weekly in podcasts. Across our streaming and digital and podcast platforms, we reach 88 million people in the United States. Overall, we reach more than 200 million people across radio, podcast, and streaming platforms. We also have our events, some of which are actually in Florida. Quickly deep diving into what we do and how my work comes into play at Audacy along with my team, the research and insights team. Please think of Audacy as a collection of local markets, including the South presence that Tax has, 47 local markets that we serve. And these are the markets that ladder up into a national view. So when an advertiser comes to us and they would like to reach across the nation, we can say yes. Or if they would like to dive into reach in Dallas, in Miami, in Orlando, we can also say yes. The research team is powering the advertising sales and thought leadership with the business community in the company. It's a very small team by number, but it's quite mighty thanks to its use of artificial intelligence and automation processes, which I'll get into. On the front end, what you see from us is a guide to leverage audio for marketing, for advertising. We are publishing weekly, and then we have monthly and biannual publications. Think of us as a small army that's supporting a publishing funnel, a publishing organization. These are just some examples of the articles and the reports that we put out. We also do one-on-one consulting with our sellers to make sure they go to market effectively, to make the case for audio and why an advertiser should choose to advertise with Audacy and embed themselves in that wonderful content that you saw. On the back end, this is something that might be interesting to those folks who are interested in artificial intelligence and automation processes. The challenge that we had when we set out for this organization was that we were getting insights from too many places. We are swimming in data. And how do we cohesively bring these bits of data together to tell interesting, intelligent stories in everyday language that someone who's not steeped in research can just understand, process, and use it effectively in a conversation? So we imagine us getting tiny, tiny bits of information from currency organizations like Nielsen and Triton, And we have some documents in Google Drive. We have highly specialized providers such as Veritonic. Some things are in Excel. We need to make sense of all this. And we use a platform called Redbird that knows, basically, we train it to go and grab information from these disparate sources, harmonize the data, and publish it. And I think that's where we save a lot of time and can remain as a small team of 7 in an organization that serves more than 200 million listeners, and not to mention the internal groups. So here's an example, for instance, over here that you're seeing a simple report that would inform a seller, an advertising seller, say in Atlanta, about who the Audacy audience is, how they should position it in a given category. For instance, who they should go after if they are speaking to someone in the pet industry versus in home improvement versus a professional service like a legal service. We have insights being published automatically in certain formats regularly, feeding back out to 47 plus markets. We're doing this so that we can do one-on-one consulting and dive deeply in a customized way with our sellers that have more robust questions, that have client needs, that are a little bit more bespoke, that are customized. So in a nutshell, we can synthesize data in smart ways thanks to using automation and artificial intelligence platform on the back end so that we have time for human connection on the front end, because you have to hear your client's question, understand their business problem, and advise on a solution using data, but in a seamless way. And it allows for those one-on-one connections, gives us time to do what we do best, which is consulting. And there will be some room for questions. I know I'm going fast. I want to switch gears to have you pretend to be an Audacy client and a Research and Insights client and hear from us on the latest audio trends. So having done all our homework with AI and automation platform, having informed all our markets, now we have time to delve into what's emerging, what's next in the audio world. And here are some latest things that we're seeing, and this is absolutely open for conversation. One surprising fact, perhaps you did not know, a lot of people think TV has the biggest reach. No longer. Audio is the leading mass medium in the marketing mix today in the United States. It has surpassed TV's reach, including the younger audiences. Here's a look from Nielsen, for instance, when we're looking at radio versus connected devices like TV, CTV, and especially live plus time-shifted TV. So when you DVR what you're watching on TV, audio's reach, whether we're talking about a younger audience like Gen Z, millennial, or a broader audience, is far ahead of television. And that is something that we advocate a lot at Audacy. There's still a bias in the marketplace for TV, but lo and behold, audio is the one standing mass medium. And I find this fascinating in an age when we've kind of lost the town hall. Everybody's watching, listening, consuming media in a very personalized way. If a marketer, an advertiser wanted to reach a lot of people, audio is the surest way. Streaming audio and podcast listenership are no longer niche. We were just having a chat before the call as to whether we watch or listen to podcasts. And that in itself is a testament that these types of channels have become mainstream. Here are the latest insights that just came out of Edison Research, a very credible third-party provider that has been studying the audio space for years, for more than a decade. We have reached more than 100 million in podcasts, weekly listeners, and over 200 million in streamers. So people who love their radio, who love their audio so much that they take it with them in their mobile phone or in their car dashboard, wherever they go. That's the beauty of audio. Think of it as like a very dynamic out-of-home vehicle as well. It doesn't stay put in the living room. It goes far beyond, and I think the numbers speak to that. What is also interesting is the usage of cross-platform audio. So you could be a radio fan and you might have gotten curious about podcasts, Or you could have been perhaps a younger audience member starting out with podcasts and had become interested in discovering some decades music or news programming or sports fandom content on radio. This is a growing trend, and it's spiking considerably just because people are fans of their audio content and they're building on top of that. Over the past 2 years, the percentage of people who are mixing their own audio channels, radio plus podcasts, radio and streaming and podcasts, this group of cross-platform users has increased by 66%. So when a brand comes to advertise with us, or when an agency approaches us to place media with us, we're always advising them to think holistically across total audio, radio plus, or podcast plus, to be present in meaningful ways across wherever the audiences are, because the audiences are across platforms. And that being said, another interesting factoid that we discovered through our own research, our proprietary research, is the role of ritualistic behavior in consuming audio. Think of the ways that you might listen to radio, or you might be choosing to download that favorite podcast episode. Are you dedicating time to it? If so, are you marking it as like a to-do on your among your daily habits, on your daily schedule? If so, you're not alone. So audio used to be known as something in the background, music you listen to and maybe tuned out. No longer. 74% of Americans today make sure they have time for their audio in their daily life. And 40%, to me, that's even a bigger number, seemingly, than the 74. 40% say they plan their activities around audio. In the past, you may have gone for a walk and had some music in the background. Today, you go for a walk when your favorite podcast episode is dropping. And that's a difference in behavior. It is so intentional. It is so dedicated, and attention is at its highest form. And that's what we bring to advertisers, a highly dedicated audience. And that has its benefits. Being in the moment, being present in that moment in a meaningful way, in an authentic way for a brand, has tremendous benefit. Imagine being a sneaker brand and serving that ad to someone who's working out and is completely focused on their podcast or on their favorite radio station, on their sports programming. Getting into that moment is more likely to propel search and a purchase. So when you're in context, when you're talking to the right person at the right moment, in the right mood, in the right context, you're more likely to get momentum and have a conversion from a shopper to a buyer as an advertiser. That is also something that we saw in our studies and what we live through on a day-to-day basis. Audio is a primary form of entertainment, and it's most of it is consumed in the car, on the go. And the drivers are getting smarter about how they consume audio in the car as well. We'll get into that, but across the board, even if it's a smart car, it's a smart dashboard, AM, FM radio, what we coin as terrestrial radio content, is the most dominant form of listening in the car. And that comes as a surprise because radio has been around for such a long time. Sometimes people think, oh, has it faded away? Has it gone away? Not at all. Majority of listening is in the car. Majority of listening in the car is with AM, FM. Radio reigns supreme. And podcasts are coming up sharply as well. Distinction that we notice as we delved into, people who listen to us in cars, and people are increasingly turning to smart systems, smart dashboards in their cars as they renew their cars, is how they're leaning into the dashboard, and whether they want a voice system, whether they want a tactile system. These are things that we think about a lot at Audacy because we're in those dashboards, in those apps as well. A jump that we've seen over the past couple of years is the increase in radio app usage. So people are getting more and more comfortable with tapping the dashboard and bringing up an app. And they are much more likely now to ask for a voice activated system in their next purchase. So when we say, if you want a new car, what are the types of demands you would have from the dealer, from the OEM? Voice usage is coming up increasingly, but radio app usage is also something to take note of. I'd like my next connected car to have voice activation, ability to access the features through my phone, and a dashboard experience that doesn't interfere with my phone. So voice throughout, or a voice activated system throughout the car experience is paramount. That is the next wave that we're seeing in audio space. And with voice comes different ways of advertising. This is the last trend I'm going to share, and then we can open it up to Q&A if you like. What if you could talk to your advertisement, or you could talk to your ad and content while driving? Nobody wants to be multitasking, all hands on wheel, on the steering wheel. This is still nascent, but it's coming up. So we asked the question to people across the United States in a national survey. Suppose you heard an advertisement on your smart speaker that allowed you to respond, to buy something, or ask for more information with your voice. And there is a healthy group of people that says, I'm somewhat likely to do that. I'm somewhat likely to interact with content and say, I'd like to put that in a basket. I'd like to hear more information about it. I'd like to get that coupon. People are warming up to it. And that's a good movable middle is what we call it. It's an opportunity. It's nascent because 11% of people are jumping in saying, yes, I'd like to use it right away, or I have been using it. A good 50% say, I'm somewhat likely to do it. They're open to it. And that's the kind of opportunity that we see in voice activation. And when we ask to those people who are likely to interact with an ad using voice, they say they would like to get more information, learn about discounts on coupons, and a healthy 46% said they would complete the purchase and buy. So think of audio as content, as advertisement, and also as a vehicle to manage that content and to further personalize the experience. And with that, I wanted to share some contact information. Of course, you can always reach out to me via email, on LinkedIn. And a couple of our managers also wanted to be here with us today, so I included their contact information as well, and they're local in Miami and Orlando. We have more contacts I could share across all the markets that Tax supports. So don't be shy, and I'm happy to share any questions you might have.
Thank you, Idil. It was really eye-opening. I didn't know all this, stats. It's really interesting. I am an avid podcast listener, and I didn't know that voice activation is becoming a real trend. Do you have any questions, our members? Do you think that you can use podcasts and radio advertising in your businesses?
It looks like I gotta go first.
Yeah.
First
Erhan
of
Bey
all,
is the president of our, organization.
nice to meet you all. Thank you for the introduction, Arzu. And thank you for introducing Tax, Serenam. It was really good. My question is, by the way, Idil, seriously, this was an eye-opener for me as well. I didn't know audio is already way overpast the TV consumer, which I understand actually. There are so many materials, especially on the video on demand world. TV is probably getting some hit over there. My understanding is your products also are like audio on demand. Is this a true assumption or correct assumption?
You can do it both ways. So it's interesting that you bring it up, because we always believe that the curated content is really what compels people to turn into a radio station. So there's a difference between the kind of person who would create their own playlist, let's think music, and choose to listen to that. It's their own compilation, it's what they like. It's hyper personalized, but it's also limited if you think about it, because you don't know what the latest hit is. You don't go back in history and learn, say, about jazz history, or you don't tap into R&B, or it's far removed from sports or news. So it's a very also insular experience. So what Audacy brings to the table, or to your ears, I should say, is a curated experience by influencers who have been living and breathing that content for decades. So what we offer is something that's curated and customized. If you choose to download the app, our app, Audacy app, and you wish to personalize that experience, that's also, I think, something that's quite unique. There are many other broadcasters out there that offer music, but we go beyond music with sports and news, so, and podcasts. So it's the one place where you can get curated content that's professionally crafted, put together, but you can also create your own mix. Imagine a lineup where you have your MLB team that you're supporting, alongside your news, alongside your podcast, and your 80s decade custom channel. So in that sense, it could be on demand, and whenever you want, you can. We're also quite proud of our rewind feature. You can go back in time in radio if you use the app. So in that sense, it could be on demand, and podcast obviously is on demand.
Okay, I got my answer, and the reason I asked this audio on demand question, especially when you described it is curated content and also is customized, so it can be customized by sector and industries, because we have in talks, we have sectors and industries under those, and when we introduce Audacy to our clients with this audio as well, probably they will have better understanding of how Audacy can serve their advertisement
Absolutely.
needs. Now,
Absolutely.
that being said, my also understanding is you do advertising nationwide,
Mhm.
and also it can be customized by market.
By market and by audience group, and I just want to
By
underscore
market
what
and
you
by
first
audience.
said. So it could be absolutely, it could be hyper local, or it could be multi-market, it could be national. So and it could be an audience network. So I want to go back to the very first thing that you said. You could have a tax member that specializes in logistics and needs to reach business decision makers. That plan might look a little different than the media plan that we propose, might look a little more different than, say, a restaurant chain, a local restaurant that wants to attract people to come in and have a taste, and wants to prioritize, let's say, families. So we can become quite astute about the way we offer which station mix should go into each plan. We know our audience well. We can see who's listening when. So we can say, select these markets or these stations if you want to reach this group.
Actually, that was really a good segue to my last question. The plan you mentioned, cost planning, especially important for introducing Audacy to our members as well. And where can they get this information?
I think the best thing, Evelyn just put, my colleague Evelyn Pacheco, who leads our sales organization out of Miami, just put her information in the chat box on, she's on LinkedIn. The best thing to do, because it's so custom and bespoke to each situation, is to reach out to someone like Evelyn, who would then pair you up herself with a salesperson who would know, who would listen, first of all, to take in the request, and then put together a plan based on the mix that might be most appropriate. Is it radio and streaming? Is it radio plus podcast? Is it podcast only? Which shows, which time periods? All of these things vary. Evelyn, you want to chime in?
Sure, yes. Everything is extremely custom by geo. We have, behavioral targeting. We have all kinds of ways that we can help you. So again, a one size does not fit all. So definitely please reach out. We'll help you. We'll hold your hand through it. It's a fun process, actually.
Yeah, it's what we do.
I said it was my last question. Probably I lied. Do you have do you have certain price structure for nonprofit organizations? Because our tax is nonprofit organization. It is about to become nonprofit organization, and it is operating on the southern states. And do we have such nonprofit organization and price structure for nonprofit organizations?
I can actually answer
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna look at you.
We offer obviously best rates, best net rates for you all, and then what we try to do is offer a percentage of bonus to help also increase the value of the offering that we give you. So we do a combination of matching or a percentage of matching in bonus weight and give you the best net pricing that we have.
Great. Thank you. I'm done.
Here.
Thank you both very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Ayhan Bey. Çiğdem, you have a
Yeah,
question?
thank you. Thank you, Idil. I mean, it was a great session. I learned a lot actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
great.
think we had no idea that radio numbers are really compared to TV and other mediums. This is such a kind of like enlightening session. Thank you for that. But I am really curious about the return on investment and how do you measure it compared with the other, like the digital advertising business is everything is based on the conversion rates. So how do you measure, and when you compare it with the other mediums, what do you see?
Oh, that's a great question. I also
You
want
wanna do that
to.
one too?
Well, okay, you take it, and then I'll what we do is I have my esteemed colleague Reggie, aka Recep Shah. It's a coincidence that we're both in two Turks in the same department. We provide benchmarks based on Nielsen as to how radio should perform in a given category against TV, against digital, against out of home, you name it. And we've done a lot of studies to establish with credible third parties like Newstar to establish the baseline. So we know that audio makes a meaningful contribution to any given media mix plan. And it might vary, the exact number might vary slightly by industry, but it's a meaningful contribution. We know certain things like how underinvested typically advertisers are, and we know the number that you need to reach in order to get the most return on that investment. So where the investment should go in order to get the maximum return. We have systems that are built in from Nielsen and from Newstar that allow us to give this kind of advice. And then we pass that baton to someone in Evelyn's position.
So in addition to that, which is absolutely huge because it lets you launch from a very educated perspective, we have advanced attribution and different attribution basically platforms that we can use for radio. We have the ability to connect to your analytics, so your G4 or your Google Analytics, read only, so we don't get the keys to the castle. And then we match up within an 8-minute window of attribution the lift to your website. So that's one way that we can actually show and prove, some form of attribution or ROI against broadcast radio. And then we can also help you with A/B testing with that as well. With regard to digital audio or any of our digital offerings, we unlock certain gates of attribution based on investment, but we have the ability to show, ROI on a cost per lead, cost per acquisition, web lift, brand lift. Again, that's all unlocked, through gates based on investment. But we do have one of the most, actually the most in the industry, sophisticated attribution platforms, or varying platforms that we can offer. So we can definitely show you ROI.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Idil. And thank you for the great question, Çiğdem. Do you have another question?
No, I'm fine. Like I also didn't know about this attention span. It's 8 minutes. I had no idea about it as well. Thank you so much. I think this is a great, another great information that we're receiving from you. Thank you.
Selen, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. So I have worked in marketing for about 16 years, let's say, back in the days when TV was king and we had AM/FM radios. So at that time, again, kind of to contribute to Chidam's question, we looked at the ROI based on different channels. So it's not just the ROI of what we spend here, it's compared to different channels of spending, because you have to have the most efficient budget allocation. So do you have any data on this kind of a question? So if I have $10,000, what is the best channel that I can invest this in? And where does audio podcasting and, Audacy stand here? This is question one. Question two is, there are different platforms. So the first one I learned was Audible, and then now there's a lot more, and I'm not really as avid as Arzu is in this, so I'm still learning, and I'm probably gonna have a one-on-one with you where I ask you millions of questions on how we can further invest in this channel. Is there something that makes you different from the other Audible, the other platforms?
Yeah. I'll tackle it one by one. The first great question. That's the quintessential question, and only sophisticated marketers ask that. So thank you for that. Yes, we do. And it depends on, so how do we decide on the marketing mix, or how do we advise? We work typically with agencies who are asking us this question. There are standards that we get from Nielsen. They have amassed hundreds and if not thousands of data bits, I should say, based on campaign and age group. So we have systems in place that will tell us if a given marketer in such and such category, targeting this age group, this gender group, or this kind of psychographic, how successful would they be if they used radio? If they used radio plus TV, if they used radio plus TV plus podcast. So there are multitudes of scenarios that we have to consider before we say, here is the optimal point. And a lot of times, we've been public about this. A lot of times what we find is that because of perceptions in the marketplace, audio will come after as an afterthought after they've allocated a lot of dollars to TV. And we're often in a position to explain the power of audio and say, let's imagine a scenario where you're shifting, just on paper, 5% of inefficient dollars to audio. Let's look at the results. And the results are exponentially stronger than what the plan that they started out with is. So I think it requires a conversation, but it's always bespoke to the category, the target audience group, and the competing media. So it's different by the channels that you want to include, but it's possible to do that. And I think that's the big sort of misconception that's out there, that it's not measurable. It's highly measurable. And because radio reaches so many people more, think of it as going from awareness to conversion. Because you start out with such a bigger group, you're going to end up with more people converting. Sometimes it's as simple as that. And your second great question, how are we different? We are I think we're similar to iHeart, perhaps, in the radio space in that regard. But what's different about Audacy is that we, in addition to music content, we also offer sports and news, and we have a tremendous podcast catalog. So what that brings is attention and fandom, enthusiasm, and intention in listening. What we find is that people who are sports fans are with us 365 days. They're not stopping at games. They're joining us for sports talk. People who tune into news are there very intentionally to get a little bit something more than just the facts. They want the discussion around news, and they want objective reporting. So you have people coming in with very different mindsets, and that's a much broader experience than, say, so truth be told, what a Spotify or Pandora can offer.
Okay.
And we're 100% addressable, where Apple and Pandora and Spotify, all those are not.
Right. So what do you mean by that? Platforms, you subscribe, not to hear ads. You pay us, like in Spotify, for instance, or in Pandora, you have that option. Or you can hear the ad and not pay the subscription fee. We are completely ad supported and completely free to the consumer. So because we're completely free and ad supported, then there are more opportunities to reach the audience, and we're able to accept more advertising.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, before ending our, session, there are great questions. My question is about, I am an avid podcast listener, and I'm really looking into what they are offering as a, advertising, some supplements, some new software solutions and applications. I'm jumping and buying. It's so easy to me. I'm, avid follower of Jason Calacanis, Steve Bartlett, and who else, Jay Shetty, etc. So I want to understand better that how podcast advertising giving a return to their, advertisers, and how long it should, be waited for seeing the great results. So,
Oh, great question. Yeah. I think do you mean by scalability, or scalability comes to mind? So I think what we've seen in the
I feel
evolution of-
sometimes they are the partner of these organizations. They are so
Oh,
good at
absolutely.
selling. Is there a different business model is coming up? So I like to
Oh,
learn.
partner isn't, no, we don't delve into, I mean, content is queen, and content, we don't, get into editorial. It's their own editorial. There might be some guidelines on what's acceptable in terms of content, but I think they're quite free to express their authenticity, their opinions. Like Audacy doesn't say you must talk about this. We partner on the basis of we take them as they are, and they might have it depends on the podcaster, the publisher, the producer. They might have some requests on who they would like to partner with as an advertiser. So they might say yes to a certain type of brand and bow out of certain type of relationships. So I think the podcaster has the ultimate yay nay on that, and I think that's important to have that independent voice and that authenticity. I can't underscore that enough, because at the end of the day, they can attract an audience if people think that's an authentic voice. That's not a commercial voice. That's true to their opinion, true to their own research. That's incredibly important to us, that has to remain impeccable. And in terms of placing advertisement in podcasts, what we always say is go beyond just one title. Don't put all your eggs into one basket. If an advertiser is questioning or wondering how to come into that space, let us work with you to put together a package, because if you're just present in one podcast and one moment, you're getting one type of consumer. You have to scale that a little bit to see the return that you guys have been underscoring. So it needs to be a certain level of buy to be measurable. That's where Reggie and I come in. And then to be able to see the results that you desire.
Okay, thank you so much, Idil, for your time and this really valuable session to our members and our
Thank you for having us.
community. Thank you for the great questions, everyone. I hope seeing you soon on the next webinar. How
All right,
can
take
they
care.
connect with you on the LinkedIn, or do you want to?
Absolutely, and we can absolutely share the slides that I had sent over, which I shared today, and we can absolutely stay connected on LinkedIn or in email. And I hope many more meetings come out of this.
Okay, perfect, great. Thanks so
Absolutely.
much, and have a wonderful day.
You too,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Right now.
Bye.